Welcome back to my channel. It's Teresa at Teresa's Crafty Cabana. Today I'm making some very simple jelly prints. If you're not sure how to get started jelly printing, or maybe you're a seasoned professional and sometimes I just like to break things down to simplicity, and I think that this was a really fun one to just play on the jelly plate but not get too carried away with too much on the jelly plate, I guess. So I focused on just making these paper stencils. My husband actually came up with the designs for these, so I had some different sized star shapes for die cuts. So he helped me line those up and cut them out, and then I created these circles on my electronic cutting program. I use Silhouette Cameo, and I just took some circles and kind of dispersed them randomly, and then copied a group of them and moved them over until I had a little pattern, but it was supposed to be like a random pattern. The idea with these two patterns was to layer one on the plate first, the smaller design, so the circles, and then put the stars behind it after the paint had dried on the circles. So and I'm trying to, try different ways of applying the paint. So for the first one, I used a little sponge with the black, and then for the second one, I just brayered the gold over the stars. And then for this is my final layer that I'm going to use to pull my print. It's a gray color, like a sand gray. It's kind of a warm gray. And for this one, it is going to be kind of like a tone on tone for that gold. So you can't see the gold very well unless I hold it into the light. But I am going to use this print at the end of the video in a card. I'll show you how I turn this one into a card. So I wanted to take these same exact colors, but do them in a different order, or get that same kind of a print just in a different way. So this time I put the gray paint down first, and I'm just going to pull that print without any design on it. And then to make sure I'm pulling the print in the exact same spot every time, I'm going to put some tape down. And then I just pull my print off. So now I have that background gray color. Next, I wanted to layer on the gold stars. So I just laid those right back down on the gel plate, and I'm just pushing down on those stars through the paper. It did need a little bit more gold, so I'm layering up another layer of gold and lining up. I was able to see, because it's a transparent paint, I was able to see where all the stars went, and I could layer it back evenly. So my idea with this way of doing the print was, the first way that I did it, I had to wait for every layer to dry. So the dots had to dry, the stars had to dry, and then I put the paint over the top. For this one, I pulled the paint while it was wet, so I didn't have to wait for it to dry in between. So that was why I wanted to try it this way, to see if I didn't have a lot of time, could this work to get a very similar print. So now I'm going to try the dots, and remember for the last time, and it took me a lot longer to do the dots when I was hand sponging each of those dots down. So the one thing I will say about the dots through the paint through the dots, because the dots were so small, is I had to keep pressing into each and every circle. I couldn't really tell which ones I was missing, so I would, as I saw that maybe there was paint left on the gel plate, I would press that little dot down, and then you can see here there were 2 dots left, but the paint was already too dry, so it didn't pull those up. So that's I'd say the only downside to doing it this way, but as I got more used to it, I think it worked a little bit better. So I just did another layer just like I did for the gold, and that way I could pull up anything that I had missed. And so I don't know if it's really faster one way or the other. I do feel like the results were similar. This was harder to line up where the dots were from the last time just because I couldn't see them. So that's a little bit tricky. But they didn't end up ruining my print. They lined up pretty well. So this is same design, but the stars, I did the double layer of stars with the paint. So I think the stars did show up a little bit better on that design. And then this was the first one. Again, the stars are very faint. They're almost not noticeable until you shine them in the light. So now I wanted to try a completely different look with these with the 2 stencils and the 3 colors. So I'm just taking the gray first, and I'm gonna do the dots, and I'm just brayering over the stencil and trying to get it into the gel plate. Doing it this way, I found I had to use a lot more paint because the paint wouldn't go into the little circles, and then I would start pulling up the paint as I was trying to brayer it. So this technique did use a lot more paint. I did have to let it dry. Then I put the stars down. Now the stars have much bigger openings, and I was thinking I was going to need a lot of paint just like I did for that first one. And really for this one, because there's a lot more jelly plate showing, I didn't need as much paint. But it still worked out, and a little bit of the gold got underneath the stencil. I did let that dry, and then I came back with the black over the top, and for this one I was going for a really dramatic look, just to see how it compared to the white or the light background. Now we'll have the black background. And I think this one looks really cool because it's the pop of the stars and the dots on the black. I think that looks really nice. And here it is compared to the really mild neutral tones of the lighter one. So it's same 2 stencils, same colors, but totally different look. So now for this one, I'm going to start by putting gold through the dots. I'm just going to brayer that out. I learned to just apply a large amount of paint for the dots, so that's what I started with. As these stencils kind of warm up and I'm using them, the paint on them turns them into more of like a regular plastic stencil, where the paint kind of moves around on them, whereas when it's the paper, it just absorbs the paint. So they become more plastic-like the more I use them. So for this one, I did change up the last color, the color I'm going to use to pull the print. I wanted to see what this Prussian blue would look like behind the stars and the dots. And I did let that dry on my plate a few minutes. And so here, this one's very dramatic as well. So I like the blue background, the black stars, and the dots were gold. So here's 4 prints that I got today from this print session, just kind of playing around with some simple techniques. I did want to use one of these to make a card. I really liked the polka dot ones with the white, just for a background of a card. So I'll show you how I turned that into a birthday card. And the other ones I'll probably create for either backgrounds or for a card as well. Okay, so I'm taking this print, gel print, and I have just an A2 sized card base here that's going to end up being a 4 1/4 by 5 1/2 size. Just using a bone folder to crisp my edge here. And now I'm figuring out what orientation I want my card. I decided to go with a landscape orientation, and I pulled out these Sizzix Thinlits. They're just alphabet dies that I had, and I wanted to line them up, so I'm using a piece of washi tape on this magnetic platform. The magnets are really strong on this, and one thing I noticed is as I was putting them down, if they were off a little bit, the magnet would kind of pull them away, kind of like on this Y. I was having a hard time, so I had to reposition. So I did end up taping them down, and then I ran them through my die cutting machine. And the background, I want to use the background and kind of show the words through. So I did pick out each of the little pieces that go in between the words for the B, the R, the D, and the A, so that I could kind of piece them back in on the card base. And I will save my letters that I actually cut out, and I'll save that for another project. Then I have, this is from Dollar Tree. There were a few different happies in this set, and I just needed something that said happy. So I used this one. It fit nicely in the top corner here. Just using my VersaFine Onyx black ink. And since I'm using my stamping tool, I just did a second coat of ink on there. And now I wanted to layer it up a little bit. So this piece that I'd used as my stencil, I actually liked that it had all the paint on it, and it had kind of like shininess to it from the paint being built up so much. So I cut down, and I liked the black side, so I will use that. And then for the rest of the piece that I had the birthday cut from, I cut that in half and trimmed it so that it'll fit on one side of the interior of the card. And that's how I wanted to kind of tie the front to the inside and give it a little bit of a design inside the card. Then I just want to glue, and for this card I'm not going to use any dimension, I'm just going to keep it all flat. So I'm just gluing everything down onto the black circle piece. And then once I get this down, I will start laying in the little pieces on the left that go in the birthday words. The glue was really wet, so I had to use a cloth to kind of absorb some of that glue that was seeping out of the letters. Then I just carefully placed each of the pieces inside, and that really made it look a lot more complete. Then I just glued that whole background onto my card and centered it. And it needed a little something. It needed maybe some color. You could see the little stars in the background, the faint stars, but I wanted to have something a little more fun for a birthday card. So I have these glitters that I hadn't used yet, and they're a cool shape. They're not circles, they're like rectangle pieces. They kind of remind me of sprinkles, like on a cupcake. So I thought that was fitting, and I really like this purpley pink color. So that's what I'm using. Glitter glue does kind of come off if I use regular glue as it dries. So I decided to use glossy accents because the glossy accents really holds glue on tight. Or glitter, sorry. It really holds the glitter on tight. And of course, as with any glitter, this is definitely going to make a little bit of a mess at first. But once all of the little glitter pieces dried, and I flicked off the loose pieces, it didn't shed glitter anymore. So that's a good thing about using the glossy accents. And you could even go over each of those little dots with the glossy accents to really seal it in, but I didn't. It wasn't necessary, and I really liked the kind. They almost look like little pom-poms. They're really cute, and they all caught the light, so that was a nice touch. Then I'm just going to glue for now, because I need to wait for the top layer to dry. I'm just going to glue the bottom piece on, because I can press down on it, and then later on, once my card dries, I will add the other side to it. Just trimming off the excess here. just to show you what it will look like. So it'll be this with the stars, a little bit of star showing through. That'll be on both sides, and then that completes this card that I made using my Gelli print. So hopefully this was a simple project that if you're looking to just get some inspiration or just do a fun little thing that doesn't take too long, maybe this inspires you. Thanks for sticking with me to the end, and I hope you have fun crafting, and I will see you in the next video.